Hello and welcome back to 4FS Gaming. This week we are going on our second tactical tour of the Bayou, with the compound in question being the Pitching Crematorium. Now I reshot this footage using the test server 3.0 build, so if there are any updates they should be included. Oh, and the aperture sight is good again, so prepare yourselves for the revived Nitro Meta 2.0. In this video, I will first walk you through the approaches to the compound from all directions, and give my analysis of each, and then go for a tour of the crematorium ruins themselves, with a special focus on the broken tower section, before going underground to explore the ins and outs of the crematorium boss lair. So here we are at the southern approach to the compound. This side really doesn't have that many features other than the bank down to the river at your south, which has good foliage and can block off line of sight if you go down far enough. There is also the road here, which is very open and often infested with hellhounds or hives. You can sprint to find some cover in the form of these brick walls or the large dirt mounds. This type of cover is very strong, as it not only blocks line of sight but it stops bullets because it counts as terrain, and it has foliage that makes it easy to hide in. The biggest problem with the southern approach is how exposed it is to the sniper's nest on top of the crematorium ruins. I'll refer to this a lot, and from now on I'll just call it the nest, because it is by far the most prominent element of the crematorium's surface. Let's run over to the west side approach. While we are here, I want to talk about this bridge, which is a common choke point when heading out from the crematorium to the west side extractions, and a great place to ambush bounty carriers, as there is often also water devils underneath it. The west side approach is basically just a large field with soft cover in the form of foliage. I classify soft cover as anything that can block line of sight, but not generally bullets, like bushes and wooden fences. This field is also a common spawn for plenty of hives and dogs, but remember that dogs are a lot less dangerous now with the 3.0 build. Again, this field has lots of exposure to the nest, although the further north you go you will find much better cover in the form of a few dirt mounds. This route here, which takes you behind the dirt mound and then the lift building, allows you to get very close without too much exposure at all. Moving into the north side approach, we do have a couple of white huts out on the swamp. This is a decent place to scope out the swamp from. You can hear what's happening in crematorium, but also maintain sightlines to Lock Bay docks and Blanchett graves. Just be aware that the water between these huts is often infested with water devils, which leaves this boardwalk as the only safe and quick route across to the shore, and as such is a place to watch out for ambushes from the east bank. While we are here, take note of the upgraded sniper towers. This one here provides a pretty good view of the northern exit from the crematorium boss lair, although it is a little bit close for my liking. Let's go a bit closer to that entrance. It's a short ladder and it's almost always guarded by an armoured zombie spawn at the top. It is also personally my favourite place to enter and leave from because it is just so far away from the other exits and the main part of the compound. Moving up on top of this entrance, just outside the crematorium north wall, is a series of very thick bushes. You can hide in here very close to the compound very effectively. That's a lot of berries. Just be warned that moving in shrubbery does make extra rustling noises, so you might want to stay still if you are trying to avoid detection. Approaching from this way is also quite safe from the nest position. This hole in the wall is perhaps the most protected entrance from the surface compound, as the nest does not have very good sightlines to it, and it puts you within throwable range of the top level. Let's move over to the east side approach, and this is a really strong angle to take mainly because of this small forest that separates crematorium from church. The foliage, trees and mounds of dirt give lots of hard and soft cover, things to climb on to get elevated, and because there is so much cover, you can easily reposition if you do get spotted. There are plenty of great sightlines to take out players in the nest as well. In addition, the mobs that spawn in here are almost exclusively grunts, and the crows that spawn in this side only appear very close to the walls of the crematorium, giving you lots of room to maneuver quietly. If you do need to change your angle, the mounds of dirt extend all the way down to the southern approach as well. One last element to discuss on the approaches is this tower on the southeast corner. It is so far away that most players do not even factor it in, but it actually has some pretty nice sightlines. It gives good angles to players in those eastern woods, and you can also shoot into the nest and the southern crematorium structures. This does work best with scoped weapons, and then you have to worry about working your way in very quickly to capitalize on any kills you do get. Now it's time to look at the surface ruins of the crematorium. This area is actually pretty small and simple, with walls which serve as good cover scattered around. This ramp is another entrance to the underground area. I don't recommend going down here if you suspect players are below, because it is a lot easier to see up out of it than to see down into it. If you are going to move down here, do so quickly and preferably with a shotgun. These southern corridors can allow for some tricky maneuvers, especially when being chased. You can vault over some of these walls and find bushes on either side. Now moving in under the nest, we have a staircase entrance to the underground area. This is long and narrow, and it can leave you vulnerable when moving through it. You are also very exposed as soon as you come down to the bottom from both sides. And bear traps. This is a common place for people to set bear traps. If we walk back over this way, we will find the crank lift. It is noisy and slow, it can only transport one person at a time, and it is known to glitch out and kill you. I do not recommend using it at all. You can climb on top of the lift building to find some supplies, but it leaves you extremely exposed, and I cannot recommend lingering up here for any length of time. Now here we have this room under the nest. People often run in here to hide or heal, which is kind of silly because they become very vulnerable to throwables. However, from here is a sneaky way to climb up to the nest, and most people probably don't know about this route, until now and they watch this video. It's still a pretty decent place to surprise people from, but if you do prefer to go up to the nest a more conventional way, there are two ladders, one here, and one to the west side. But why would you use ladders and be slow and vulnerable when there is a perfectly good ramp right next to you with excellent cover? There is a similar but slightly more clunky to use ramp on the east side as well. So here we are, atop the nest, probably the most important above ground feature of the compound. This location can be dangerous as there are often a number of barrels you may have to dispose of, and you are reasonably exposed from many directions. However, the high ground and the excellent brick cover makes you dangerous as well, especially this side where you have some bushes to crouch in, and it's also very easy to get down to push people or retreat in any direction. The northern end of the nest provides a lot less cover and concealment, but it does have good sightlines over the swamp as far as Blanchett Graves and Lock Bay Docks, provided you're actually rendering in Blanchett Graves from this distance. You can take another ladder to get even higher, but trading cover for elevation isn't such a good idea and you will become very exposed. Let's take a walk underneath, where we have a complex layout including the boss lair. Coming from the southern ramp, we can either head straight north or turn west. There is also this little room that has views into the boss lair, but it doesn't really go anywhere else. Turning west, we soon come across the bottom of the staircase entrance we saw earlier. At the end of this passage there are two doorways. The north doorway leads past the threshold into the boss lair itself. The west doorway takes you into a small chamber which houses the lift, but remember, no one takes the lift. There is also a small corridor which will again deposit you inside the boss lair. The lair itself is actually just a large rectangle. It may seem like a bit of a maze with all the hanging fabrics and pillars, but it really is just one large chamber. On the eastern side there is a crawl space which deposits you back into the first corridor that goes straight on from the ramp we first walked down. You can take this doorway to skirt the perimeter of the boss lair, in a corridor that has both another crawlspace entrance to the boss lair and the north ladder entrance from the swamp that we talked about earlier. At the end of this corridor is the final entrance to the boss lair, and one of the better ones to fight from because it doesn't force you to crouch to enter or exit. Let's talk about defending and attacking the boss lair. The chamber itself is hard to defend as it has many entrances. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. However, it is far easier to prevent people from coming underground in the first place, as there are only 3 entrances because I don't count the lift at all, and they are all pretty dangerous to use. 1. The stair entrance. 2. The ramp entrance. 3. The ladder entrance. To defend this one, I recommend trapping the ladder entrance at the top. Yes, hunters will be able to disable it more easily up there, but they will also have to trigger the sound trap warning you to come down. If you place it at the bottom of the ladder, it is pretty easy for players to clear it even without triggering, as they jump down straight over where you've set the trap. You can also peek through this slit here for an excellent sightline to the top of the opening. As for the stairwell entrance, you cannot put traps directly on the stairs because of the slope, but you can put them right at the bottom, and this usually does the trick. Especially if you put 2 here, it becomes very hard to get down without setting them off. The ramp is the entrance that you really need to be watching visually, as it gives you better sights than anyone coming down will having a look at you. It is wide enough that traps can be avoided, however, and a concertina could be used to block it off, but remember that that also takes away options for when you want to leave the boss lair. All in all, I usually like to send at least 1 defender up to the nest above. Because it is easy to get trapped down here even with the bounty, defending from the surface is often the smarter option, as long as you stay in cover and don't get picked off by standing still. When killing bosses in here, it's all standard really, except if you want to kill the spider silently with melee weapons, you need to come over to the west side of the lair, which has a much lower ceiling for easier hits. And that brings us to the end of our tactical tour of the Pitching Crematorium. Please like and subscribe to see more, and make sure you turn on your notifications if you want to know when we bring out a new video. If you want to connect with us, please check out our Discord server linked in the description below. And if you would like to support us to produce more and better content, you can check out our Patreon down there as well. Thank you so much for watching. This is Ascendance from 4FS Gaming.